I had just won first place in the state science fair for a drone I'd built from scratch using salvaged parts and some custom code I wrote in my bedroom. I came home beaming, certificate in hand, clutching this heavy little plastic trophy like it actually meant something. Mom glanced up from the kitchen sink, nodded and said, "That's great, honey." "Hey, Rick, did you see Tyler's stat line from last night?" I just stood there. Dad, half watching ESPN on the couch, didn't even turn around. 3 for 4 and 2 RBIs. "Kid's on fire," he said, grinning like it was his name in the box score. That was how it always went. Quick note. Before we go any further, tell us where you're watching from. Which country or city are you tuning in from today? My name's Eric. I'm 31 now. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. Middle-class family. Nothing fancy. My parents, Rick and Diane, worked hard. Dad was in sales, Mom taught 3rd grade. Then there was my younger brother, Tyler. Tyler was the golden kid. I'm not just saying that. The kid had that natural glow. Blonde hair, blue eyes, played varsity baseball as a freshman. Teachers loved him. Girls chased him. Even when he crashed Mom's car senior year, they still threw him a "you made it" graduation party with balloons and sheet cake. Me? I was the quiet one. Serious. Always had a screwdriver or soldering iron in my hand. Built my first radio at 10. Fixed our neighbor's busted microwave at 13. Straight A's. Never snuck out. Never got caught doing anything. And none of it mattered. Tyler brought home a C+ in algebra. They hired him a private tutor. I got into a STEM program ranked top 5 in the country. That's nice, Eric. Don't forget to pack a jacket. When Tyler got asked to prom, Mom made him pose for 20 pictures on the porch. I once got featured in a local news piece for a robotics showcase. They DVR'd it but never watched it. The pattern was clear by the time I hit high school. If Tyler showed up, celebration. If I crushed it, expected. The hardest part? I started believing it. That being overlooked meant I was doing okay. That maybe attention wasn't for kids like me. So I kept my head down, kept building things, kept getting A's. And every time they said, "We're just so proud of how responsible you are," it felt less like praise and more like a reminder to stay invisible. I didn't ask for applause. I just wanted to matter. I shut the door with the trophy still in my hand and set it on my desk. It sat there, untouched, for weeks. That was sophomore year. By senior year, I'd stopped trying to impress anyone at home. Not because I didn't care, because I finally accepted that they didn't. The day of my high school graduation was hot as hell. June sun baking the metal bleachers, sweat running down my back under the stupid polyester gown. They called my name. I stood, walked across the stage, shook hands, smiled for the photo. Then I turned to the crowd. Everyone else had signs, noise, cameras flashing, families yelling their kids' names like they were crossing into the damn NFL draft. I looked up at the section where my parents were supposed to be. Empty seats, no Rick, no Diane, no wave from Mom with her oversized sunglasses, no picture taking, just 2 unclaimed chairs and a breeze that hit harder than any punch ever could. Later that night, I came home, diploma folder in hand, gown draped over my arm. Tyler was in the backyard, Dad cheering as he practiced swings off a tee. "We made regionals," Dad called out. "Had to hit the road early to beat traffic. You understand, right?" I didn't answer, just walked past them and shut myself in the garage. MIT sent my acceptance with a full ride. Big packet. One of those thick envelopes you dream about. I laid it out on the kitchen table like proof of life. Mom walked by, glanced down, said, "Nice job, Eric. Make sure to send us the address when you settle in," then asked if I'd seen her phone charger. Tyler hit a double that week. We went out for dinner at Olive Garden. Mom took photos of the breadsticks. By the time I actually got to Cambridge, I was done calling home unless something major happened. And even then, it was always the same. Oh, before I forget, Tyler's girlfriend got him front row tickets to a Celtics game. Tyler's coach says he's got real scout potential. Tyler might switch majors. Isn't that brave of him? It never stopped. But college College was different. I met Ben during orientation. He was from Chicago, played guitar, loud laugh, even louder opinions. But he listened. That dude actually listened. We roomed together all 4 years. 4. He remembered when I had my first big panic attack before finals and sat with me the whole night, letting me ramble about how I'd never be enough. You're not just smart, man. You show the hell up. That matters. Ben celebrated me in ways my family never did. So did my circle of friends, people who weren't dazzled by Tyler, who didn't even know him. Senior year, I was named valedictorian, reserved 5 seats for my family in the front row. Day of the ceremony, I put on my gown, pinned my honors cords, and checked my phone. One text from Mom. Tyler has a tryout in Chicago. We're driving him. Proud of you, though. No punctuation. No apology. I delivered my speech staring into a crowd of strangers. Afterward, I stood there in my cap and gown as Ben's parents hugged him like he'd won a Nobel, and I nodded at the empty chairs marked R. Miller and D. Miller. Felt like background noise in my own life. The dependable one. The one who didn't need attention. Or maybe just the one they forgot needed it too. I walked out the back door of my own graduation, stepped into the alley behind the auditorium, and didn't look back. I had nothing left to prove to people who couldn't be bothered to show up. A couple months later, I moved to Boston. Ben and I found a small place in Somerville. Cracked ceilings, heat that worked half the time, but it was ours. I'd landed a job at a robotics startup. Long hours, decent pay, and for the first time, no one asking about my brother. It felt clean. Ben kept me sane during that first year. We'd split takeout on the couch, talk about the future, crack jokes about how we'd raise each other's kids if we ever managed to date women who didn't ghost us by the 3rd dinner. Then came poker night. One of Ben's old high school friends hosted monthly games. Elise showed up late, dropped into the seat next to me, and casually cleaned house like she'd invented the game. Sharp eyes, sharp mouth, no bluff, no fake laugh, no sugarcoating. "Eric, right?" she asked, stacking chips like it was nothing. "Yeah. You always this quiet or just losing badly?" I couldn't stop grinning. We went for coffee a week later, then dinner. 3rd date, we ended up walking through the Common after midnight. Streetlights buzzing, the world finally quiet. She asked about my family. I didn't want to unload, but I did. Told her how they'd missed my graduations, how Tyler was the golden boy and I'd always been the backup plan. Told her I didn't call much anymore, and I wasn't sure they noticed. She stopped walking, looked me straight in the eye and said, "That's not normal, Eric. That's emotional neglect." I felt like I'd been slapped. No one had ever said it like that before, not even Ben. Elise didn't just listen. She understood. She didn't try to fix it, didn't hand me a motivational quote or some crap about gratitude. She just said, "You don't have to carry their choices." She encouraged me to try therapy. I resisted at first, felt like admitting weakness. But a month later, I was sitting across from a guy named Dr. Malley, who asked, "When did you start feeling invisible?" I almost laughed, like there'd ever been a time I didn't. Therapy didn't fix everything overnight, but it gave me names for what I'd grown up with. Favoritism, enabling, conditional love. It wasn't just they tried their best. It was that their best only applied to one of us. Meanwhile, Elise's world looked like something from a different planet. Her dad, Carl, was this calm, steady guy who gave me career advice over pancakes, like it was no big deal. Her mom, Linda, texted me happy birthday the first year we were dating, before Elise even reminded her. That stuff wrecked me in a quiet way. I didn't know parents could be like that. After a while, I stopped trying to keep my parents updated. No more long texts about promotions or photos from trips. If I called, it was short. If they asked about my life, I gave the headlines and moved on. I was done fighting for a spotlight that had never once pointed at me. When Elise and I hit our first anniversary, I realized something. I didn't miss the way things used to be. I just missed the version of me that used to believe I mattered to them. That guy was gone. Now, I was building a different life. Not perfect, not polished, but real. And for the first time, I was choosing who got to be part of it. I locked my phone, turned back to Elise, and said, "I'm done reaching for people who don't reach back." She didn't say anything, just pulled the blanket over our legs and leaned into my shoulder. That was late spring. A couple weeks later, I proposed. It was our second anniversary. I rented out the old observatory where we had our first date. Had the tech team rig up custom lights so the ceiling glowed like a galaxy. I told Elise we were just going to stargaze. Instead, I dropped to one knee. She froze, then cried, then said yes, so fast I almost forgot the rest of my speech. I don't remember leaving. Just remember her hand in mine, the way she kept saying, "Is this real?" Like someone might take it away. The next morning, I called my parents. Thought maybe, just maybe, they'd care. Mom answered, "Hey, I wanted to tell you something." "What's up, honey?" "Elise and I are engaged. I proposed last night." "Oh, that's nice." She didn't even fake excitement, just pivoted. "Did you hear Tyler put an offer in on that place near the lake? Jenna's so excited. Big yard, too. You should see the deck." I didn't say anything, just hung up after a couple minutes and stared at the ceiling like it owed me an explanation. We sent out wedding invites the next month. 70 guests. Historic hall near Boston. Nothing crazy, just people we loved and trusted. Elise's family helped plan most of it. Her dad even offered to cover the florist when we went over budget. It was supposed to be simple, quiet, ours. Then Tyler and Jenna, who'd been dating maybe 4 months, announced their own engagement. Same week the invites went out. It felt intentional. No RSVP came from my family, for weeks. I waited. Elise waited. The deadline passed. I finally called. "Hey, Mom, did you get our invite?" "Oh yeah, we got it," she said. "We'll try. But Tyler and Jenna are thinking about a gathering that weekend, too. We'll see what works." My jaw clenched. A gathering? Just something small. Jenna's parents are involved now. You know how that goes. Everyone wants their say. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Can you let me know soon? We need final numbers for catering." "Of course, honey. We'll figure it out." Another 2 weeks passed. Nothing. I called again. "Mom, I need an answer. Can you make it to the wedding or not?" She sighed. "Jenna's parents already booked the venue for their party. It's the same weekend and we can't be in 2 places. It's my wedding, Mom." There was a pause. Then the words that snapped whatever thread was still holding me to them. "Family comes first, Eric." I stared at the phone, blinking, like maybe I'd misheard her. "I am family," I said. She didn't respond. That's when it hit me. To them, Tyler was the sun. Everything else? Orbiting or optional. I was just the satellite. Always there. Never seen. I hung up. No yelling, no begging. Just silence. Then I turned to Elise and said, "If they don't come, we're still getting married. We'll fill the room with people who chose us." She nodded. "Good. I don't need their approval. I just need you." I dropped the RSVP in the trash and didn't say a word. Elise didn't ask. She just reached for my hand. We still had a wedding to plan. Ben was supposed to stand next to me. He'd been there for every damn milestone. College, moving in together, late nights full of doubt and cheap whiskey. When I told him about Elise, he said, "Don't screw this one up, man. She actually likes your awkward ass." I asked him to be my best man 6 months earlier. He laughed like I'd just told a joke, then said, "You already knew the answer." The night before the wedding, I was ironing my shirt when I got a text from him. Something came up. Might be late to the ceremony. "Sorry, man." I stared at the screen, read it twice, then again. Might be late? This was my wedding. Still, I brushed it off. Told myself maybe something urgent popped up. Family stuff, travel delay. He'd be there. He had to be there. Morning of the wedding, I woke up early. Elise was with her sister, getting ready in a different suite. I was alone. No calls from my folks, no texts from Tyler. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, tying my shoes slower than necessary, letting the silence crawl in. The room was too clean, too still. Out of habit, I opened Instagram. Jenna had posted a story. Final fitting for today's party. So excited to celebrate with those who matter most. I froze. Among the likes? Ben. I clicked his name, heart pounding, checked his stories. There he was, laughing, standing in front of a balloon arch with Tyler, holding a damn mimosa. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to change, like maybe it was an old post. But no, it was from this morning. That betrayal cut deeper than anything my parents had done. Ben knew. He knew what they'd put me through. He'd sat with me after graduation, watched me walk alone, heard the stories, he saw it all, and still chose them. I called him. Straight to voicemail, texted, "Are you at their party?" A few minutes passed. Then he replied, "I thought maybe I could do both. I was wrong. I'm sorry, man." That's it. Not, "I messed up." Not, "I'll be there soon." Just sorry. I looked at the message for a full minute, then turned my phone off. No more distractions. No more hoping people would choose me when it counted. I still had a wedding to show up for. Elise deserved more than my disappointment walking down the aisle with me. So I stood up, straightened my tie in the mirror, practiced my smile, tried not to picture the empty space where Ben should have been standing. I thought back to college, how he was the one who told me I was worth more than being ignored. Turns out even the people who see you can still leave when it's inconvenient. The knock on the door that came next changed everything. I walked to the door, opened it, and froze. Marcus. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. We were tight in college, same dorm freshman year, lost touch after he moved to New York for work. We'd traded texts once in a while, but I didn't even think he knew the wedding date. He stood there in a wrinkled button-down, tie half done, hair messy from the wind. "Surprise," he said. "I heard what happened. Elise called me last night." I blinked. "You drove all the way up here?" "Left at 4. Caught every toll on I-95, he said, stepping inside. "Figured you could use a hand." That's when I lost it. Not the angry kind. Just everything I'd been holding in since Ben's text, since my mom's excuse, since Tyler's party. I turned away so he wouldn't see my face, but Marcus already knew. "Hey," he said, grabbing my suit jacket off the back of a chair. "You want this to wrinkle, or you want to look like a guy who's marrying up today?" He slipped it over my shoulders, started adjusting the collar. "You're really here," I said. "Of course I am. Somebody had to show up." He fixed my tie, real slow, like he'd done it 100 times before. We didn't talk much after that, just moved through the motions like we'd rehearsed it. At one point I asked, "You sure about standing in for Ben?" Marcus didn't hesitate. He made his choice. I'm making mine. That hit harder than it should have. When it was time, we headed down to the venue. Elise's dad met us at the doors, dressed to kill and holding back tears. He pulled me into a quick hug. "Proud of you, son." That word, son, it landed different. We stood at the altar as the music started. Marcus gave me a quick nod. I clenched my fists to stop my hands from shaking. Then Elise walked in. Everything around her blurred. Crowd, lights, music, gone. Just her, eyes locked on mine, smiling like I'd never let her down. Her dad walked her down, kissed her cheek, and whispered something in her ear that made her smile. And just like that, the hole my family left didn't feel so wide anymore. The ceremony was short, honest. No fluff, just real vows, real love, real people who showed up. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," I kissed her like the past didn't matter anymore. Because in that moment, it didn't. The reception was loud in the best way. Laughter, clinking glasses, toasts from people who meant it. Elise's sister told a story about her always falling for guys with projects, and how I was the first one who wasn't broken, just a builder. People cheered. Someone passed us champagne. We cut the cake, fed each other a bite. Elise smudged icing on my cheek and laughed until she cried. And then I checked my phone. 27 missed calls. I stared at the screen. My mom, my dad, Tyler. Repeated over and over. One text stood out. We need to talk, urgent. Mom. I showed Elise. She didn't flinch, just wiped the corner of my mouth with a napkin and said, do what you need to. But remember, this is your day. She didn't tell me what to do, didn't press, just let me decide. I looked back at the crowd, Marcus cracking jokes with Elise's uncles, her mom dancing with her toddler cousin, my in-laws smiling like they'd won the lottery, people who chose us, people who were here. I slipped the phone into my pocket and said, I'll call them after the reception. After the dance with Elise, I stepped outside the reception hall and called back. Dad picked up on the first ring. His voice was low, like he'd been crying. Eric, it's Tyler. He told Jenna everything. I leaned against the brick wall, heart already racing. Everything? He admitted it. The fake texts, the lies, all of it. I didn't say anything. I waited. Dad went on, slow and cracked. He showed us fake screenshots, made it look like you moved the wedding without telling us, said you didn't want us there, that you were done. My throat burned. And you believed that? We did, he said. We didn't even ask questions. We just assumed it was true. That hit harder than any of the other stuff. Not just the lie, how easily they swallowed it. Why would he do that? I asked. There was silence on the other end, then a shaky breath. He said he didn't want to be second at your wedding, that it was supposed to be his day. He knew people would compare the two. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So instead of being an adult, he made sure you missed mine. Eric, number, I called. I texted. I begged you to come. You looked me in the eye and chose him anyway. Dad didn't argue. Just let the words hang there. Apparently Patrick, Jenna's older brother, had caught Tyler in a lie halfway through their party, pressed him. Tyler cracked, confessed everything. Patrick told Jenna. She dumped him right there in front of the cake table, all while I was cutting mine. My parents were stunned. That was the word Dad kept using. Stunned. Like it was some twist ending in a movie, not their actual son playing puppet master. He told us you'd blocked him, that you didn't want us involved, said you'd make a scene if we showed up, and you never once thought to check with me. More silence. Then Dad said, we didn't think we deserved to be there. We figured you'd given up on us for good. I wanted to scream. Instead, I closed my eyes and said, meet me at the hotel after the reception. You want us to come there? Yes. Okay, we will. I hung up without saying goodbye. Back inside, Elise gave me a look, asking without asking. I just nodded. She reached for my hand. We made it through the rest of the night, danced, laughed, posed for photos that'll sit on our shelves forever. But in the back of my mind, that conversation replayed over and over. Tyler. He didn't just lie. He sabotaged my wedding. He made sure I stood alone. And Mom and Dad let it happen. No resistance, no doubt. They didn't even ask. That's what stung. Not the lie. The blind loyalty. The fact that I'd been so easily discarded while Tyler just snapped his fingers and controlled the narrative. When the last guests left and the music faded, I told Elise I needed 10 minutes. She didn't argue, just whispered, take your time. I walked to the side room off the hotel lobby. The clock read 11:07. I sat down, hands clasped, watching the door. At 11:15, it opened. They stepped into the side room like they weren't sure they were allowed. Mom's eyes were red. Dad's shirt was wrinkled, untucked, like he'd thrown it on in a hurry. Neither of them said anything at first. They just stood there, wrecked, looking like they'd been hit by a truck. I didn't move, didn't hug them, just nodded toward the chairs across from me. They sat. It was dead quiet, except for the ticking wall clock and the buzz of the vending machine down the hall. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "We're sorry, Eric. Truly. We messed this up in every way." Mom wiped her nose, eyes filled with tears, but said nothing. I let them sit in it for a moment. Then I asked, flat, "Why didn't you fight for me?" Dad blinked. "What? Why didn't you fight for me?" I said again. "Why did you believe I'd shut you out like that? After everything?" He looked down at his hands, then back up. "Because deep down, we knew we hadn't earned your love. Not really. We figured we didn't deserve to be there." Mom finally spoke. "We didn't think we'd done enough to be part of your life the way you needed. So when Tyler said you didn't want us, it made a horrible kind of sense." I leaned forward. "So, instead of trying to fix that, you leaned into the lie?" Neither of them argued, just nodded, like that shame was finally settling where it belonged. I took a deep breath. "I'm not ready to forgive you. Not tonight. Maybe not for a long time." Dad nodded slowly. "We understand. And if we're going to fix this, if anything's going to change, it's going to be through therapy. Not just for me. For all of us." Mom's voice cracked. "We'll do it. Whatever it takes." "I mean it," I said. "No more pretending everything's fine. No more ignoring the past just because it's uncomfortable." They both nodded again. This time, more certain. "And Tyler," I added. "He needs help. Serious help. You can't keep enabling him just because he knows how to smile in front of company." Dad ran a hand through his thinning hair, "He's already gone quiet. Hasn't responded since Jenna dumped him. We'll talk to him. Get him into therapy too. This isn't going away." "Good," I said, "because I'm done playing second to a lie." Mom leaned forward, her voice trembling. "We want a real relationship with you, Eric. Not the one we imagined we had. The real one. The hard one. The one we didn't earn but want to now." I didn't say anything right away. I just looked at them, really looked at them. They didn't have defenses up, no excuses. Just two people who'd finally seen the damage they helped cause. I didn't soften. I didn't let them off the hook. But for the first time in years, I believed they wanted to understand. That was a start. We stood. Still no hug. Just a stiff, quiet moment where they looked like they might say more but didn't. Then I opened the door and nodded toward the hallway. "Let's take the first step." We walked out of that hotel room and didn't look back. 6 months later, Elise and I were deep into newlywed life. The honeymoon in Iceland had been a full reset. Hiking black sand beaches, soaking in hot springs, no service, no noise. Just us, breathing again. Back home, real life picked up. My parents actually started therapy, weekly. They even sent me the intake email so I knew it wasn't a bluff. A few weeks in, they asked if I'd be willing to join. I said yes, on my terms. The first family session was weird as hell, sitting in a circle with people who had ignored me for years while a stranger asked them to reflect out loud, but I stayed in it. Second session, I didn't hold back. Neither did they. By the third, we were having real conversations for the first time in decades. Not polished, not perfect, but honest. Tyler vanished for a while, cut off social media, didn't return calls. I didn't chase him. Then one day, I got a text. "You free to talk?" We met at a diner halfway between our cities. He looked smaller than I remembered, like someone who finally realized he wasn't bulletproof. "I messed up," he said. No dramatic buildup, no excuse, just that. I didn't let him off easy. I asked him why. Why the lies? Why the sabotage? He didn't flinch, just said, "Because I hated how easy everything seemed for you. You had the grades, the job, the relationship. I had to be loud just to get attention." I actually laughed. Effortless? Tyler, you were the center of the damn universe. He stared at his coffee, and I hated that it never felt earned. It wasn't forgiveness, not right then, but it was real. And for the first time, it felt like he saw the damage. Back in Boston, Marcus and I got lunch every couple weeks. We picked up like no time had passed. He didn't ask for anything, didn't try to replace Ben or fix things. He just showed up, same way he did on my wedding day. That counted for everything. Ben took longer. He sent letters, left voicemails. One even sounded like he'd been drinking, just repeating how sorry he was and how badly he'd misjudged things. I ignored most of it. Then one day, I picked up. "Took you long enough," he said. I didn't let him joke his way out. I told him flat out, "We'll never be what we were, but I appreciate the honesty now." That was the only call we had, and it was enough. Elise's family became the kind of people I thought only existed in movies. Her dad called me once a week just to check in. Her mom remembered little things, like what I liked in my coffee or which brand of batteries I used for my tech gear. It wasn't flashy, it was consistent. That first holiday season, we did Thanksgiving at their house. There was a stocking hanging on the mantel with my name stitched across it, not written with a Sharpie. Stitched. I almost cried in front of everyone. Elise squeezed my hand under the table. Didn't say a word. She knew. And that's when I realized this was what rebuilding looked like. Not starting over, just starting real. I hung the stocking back on the mantel and stepped outside with Elise. Snow was just starting to fall, light and silent, like the world was offering us a clean slate. 1 year later, we hosted a small dinner at our place. Nothing big, just family and a few close friends. The people who'd made it clear they wanted a seat at the table and didn't need to be begged for it. My parents came. They were different now, quieter, slower to talk, quicker to listen. They brought a photo album, leather-bound, a little worn. Inside were pictures from my childhood I hadn't seen in years. Me in a cardboard robot costume holding a toy soldering iron. Me at the science fair table no one came to. Each photo had a short note in Mom's handwriting. We miss these moments, but we remember now. I didn't say anything when I read that, just nodded. That was enough. Tyler didn't come. He texted that morning. Said he was still working through things. I didn't push. I respected it. Healing doesn't happen on a schedule. After dinner, we moved into the living room. Elise stood up, tapped her glass with a spoon. Everyone looked up. She smiled at me, then said, "We have news." I already knew what she was about to say, but hearing it out loud made my chest tighten in the best way. "We're having a girl." My mom gasped and covered her mouth. My dad stood and pulled me into a hug so tight it actually surprised me. Then came the question. "Can we be part of her life?" Mom asked. I looked them both in the eye. "Only if you show up. No more golden children. No more excuses." They nodded, in sync. No more. Later that night, after the dishes were cleared and everyone was gone, Elise and I sat on the couch. She rested her head on my shoulder and asked, "You think you've forgiven them?" I didn't answer right away. I stared at the fireplace for a while, then said, "No. But I believe they're trying. That's enough for now." I thought about our daughter, about what kind of father I wanted to be, and I made a promise, quiet but firm. She would never have to earn love in her own home. She'd know it was hers from the start. No competition, no scoreboard, no conditions. If she ever comes to me one day and asks what kind of man her dad was, I won't give her a speech. I'll hand her a photo, me and Elise on our wedding day, standing at the altar, smiling, surrounded by people who chose to be there. No golden boys, no missing chairs, just real love.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.